So, hi, my name is TALAN GODFREY, and I'm a real gang stalking victim. I'm a real targeted individual, unlike most of the people that you see on YouTube, commletube, and social media websites. Most of those people are not real gang stalking victims. Most of those videos that you see on social media websites are fake gang stalking victims doing a psychological operation campaign against you, the real gang stalking victim, against you, your friends, your family, and your potential allies. See, this gang stalking involves powerful people and money and slavery over some gang stalking victims. I'm pretty sure they are slaves, mind control slaves, or they got hit with these direct energy weapons, these mind control technologies, and then they did something illegal. Now these little gang stalkers pretty much got them by the balls, and they're not going to let them go until this stuff is truly exposed for what it is. Gang stalking has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. Gang stalking has nothing to do with the supernatural, the paranormal, the metaphysical. Gang stalking has nothing to do with no damn chosen one. Gang stalking has nothing to do with no stupid tarot cards. Okay, nobody was doing gang stalking tarot card readings back in 2016. Nobody was doing that shit. You There's so much psychological, there have been so many psychological operation campaigns against real gang stalking victims over the past decade. The RH factor, oh, you got a special phenotype in your blood, you got special DNA. The RH factor shit, every once in a while you read the comments and you see that shit. That's not me doing it, it's those motherfuckers. Eventually people are going to wake up that a gang stalking victim or a victim of a harassment campaign is not a special chosen one destined for greatness by the power of God, or whatever these fake gang stalking victims talk about in their fucking videos. um, if you are a real gang stalking victim, I need you to look at Popular Mechanics magazine. This is psychoelectronic weapons effects. This is a good chunk of what a real gang stalking victim goes through and have been through. And you can see in Popular Mechanics magazine, psychoelectronic weapons effects. I'm looking at the damn page. You don't see no fucking chosen one on this motherfucking page. Okay? You don't see no fucking chosen one destined for greatness from the power of God. You destined for great things. No, you're destined for pain and suffering and heartache. And nobody believes you, and a good chunk of your family ain't gonna believe you. That's if they have been recruited into the shit in the first place against you. But anyway, this is Psychoelectronic Weapons Effects, Popular Mechanics magazine. Then you have, I truly believe it's real. They call it EEG cloning, EEG heterodyning, remote neural monitoring, remote neural manipulation. These are all versions of mind control technology. Brian 2 talked about it. I hope the guy Brian 2 is still alive. I haven't seen him make a video in a while. Hopefully that dude's still alive, because he's been talking about gang stalking for like 15 years. 15, 20 years. You have Brian Confrin, you have Dr. Robert Duncan, you have Dr. John Hall, Dr. Terrence Robinson, Dr. Matthew Aaron, Cheryl Welch, the lawyer, the former NSA analyst, Karen Stewart. You have that McKinney chick. Just check my video. You've seen that McKinney, the former intelligence officer from the Army, talking about this gang stalking. None of these people brought up a thing called the chosen one destined for greatness with the power of God. Nobody brought that stupid shit up, okay? The people who got letters after their name and went to college and got these big ass fancy degrees, when they talked about gang stalking, they never ever said anything about you're special. No, they said that you've been chosen for jail, prison, heartache. Your kid's gonna get taken away from you. You're gonna end up being homeless. You're gonna be put on medicine that you don't need to ruin whatever brain you have left. It's weird, funky stuff is gonna happen. So, Popular Mechanics magazine, psychoelectronic weapons effects. EEG cloning, EEG heterodyning, remote neural monitoring, remote neural manipulation. Dr. Robert Duncan. You can find that video about artificial telepathy sucks. Artificial telepathy sucks. Brian too, that he used to work in some type of security military contract work That's what he's been saying for like damn near 20 years. Like I said before, I hope to God he's still alive because I haven't seen him in a while. Because he just went off the radar. So just be careful of that. So, okay, so let's get into the video and the reason why you are here. I'm going to shut this down for this thing explodes my computer. Okay, it will explode my computer. Now they're going to explode my computer. They're going to explode the battery. Okay, and so my name is TALAN GODFREY. Let's get time and date. Everybody else, I'm so sorry, but I cannot show up at the Santa Monica Pier. My family's sick. They're sick with something. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Andre, if I see you at the Santa Monica Pier sometime around within the year 2025, I'll tell you what that is. For everybody else, none of your damn business. But Andre, I'm your mom and I love you and I miss you. I was at the Santa Monica Pier on the 31st and 1st, the 29th, and the 28th. Actually, I showed up to the Santa Monica Pier for the month of December, but I was with your grandmother, so I couldn't do the whole protest. I couldn't be there at the Santa Monica Pier protesting for hours and hours on end like I normally do because I had your grandmother with me. But like I said before, I can't show up to the Santa Monica Pier this weekend or for the next couple of weeks because I gotta take care of the family members. Okay. I'm not infected, but I've been at the Santa Monica Pier surrounded probably by 1 million people, so they've been breathing on me. So I've probably been infected with something, but not what your grandmother and the rest of your family has. Okay. So, Andre, hopefully you think about your sick relatives. Everybody else, let's get to why you watch this video. Okay, I'm gonna stop the camera. I'm gonna stop the camera right now. Oh, stop. Hopefully it should stop. Okay, so this is going to prove what I'm talking about is
one of them told me, who was involved in this, he said, we didn't want to do it on housewives in suburbia. We chose the people in society who could offer the least resistance and who would be least likely to expose it, or if they did expose it, it would be least likely to be believed. On housewives in suburbia. Didn't want to do it on housewives in suburbia. We chose the people in society who could offer the least resistance and who would be least likely to expose it, or if they did expose it, it would be least likely to be believed.
Okay, so now you're understanding it, okay? You're understanding why they do that chosen one bullshit and the rest of these psychological operation campaigns against real gang stalking victims. Now you understand it. While they'll go after people who are clearly mentally ill
maintain the same, I expect to be
and yet they will be the face of gang stalking. It's because it's a psychological operation campaign. That person who is mentally ill, probably is a real gang stalking victim. But these people will go after that person and I'm going to say Candy Pre and the rest of them. And, you know, I have a mental illness as well. But you don't see me be in the face of gang stalking getting like 800 views on a TikTok video. No, you don't. Because I talk about gang stalking through a legal and scientific lens. So I can be believed. They don't want that. Okay? Okay, I'm just saying, be careful of the psychological operation campaigns. You talk about gang stalking through a legal and scientific lens. You are a threat to the system. They just haven't killed you yet. They probably will. So I have to watch out. Okay, pay attention.
Create the appearance of a demon or archon possessing someone when it can interpret this influence as demonic or archontic and leave out the covert transhuman control grid influence. Remote influencing technology can create the appearance of a demon or archon possessing someone when it can be really just human military sources with advanced technology that they do not have the proper ethics to be wielding. The object behind presenting a demonic facade is to remain unseen while operating overtly. Technological possession is becoming more and more common. I understand the Vatican has reported a 100% rise in the number of requests for exorcisms over the past 15 years. I can safely say some of those cases are technological.
This is Operation Armageddon right here. You see, monarch program behind spiritual warfare thoughts, okay? Okay, so if you being a fan of my channel, you already know about this information. I will find an older Dr. John Hall talking about, he didn't call it Operation Armageddon, but he bringing up what we will interpret Operation Armageddon as when it comes to gang stalking, being hit with these voice-to-skull technology weapon, thinking that you were going to be a prophet of God, and like, no, you just got hit with a voice-to-skull technology weapon. That's what you got fucking hit. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is this video right here. Now, normally I like this dude. He gonna play to his audience, and his audience is basically Christians. I don't have no problem with that, because he did talk about gang stalking and gang stalking victims through a legal and scientific lens in the past. So I don't have a problem with him doing that in this video.
This is the nation.
But the rest of these motherfuckers just coming in, saying gang stalking religion or spiritual. It's religious or spiritual. No. I don't know, where were you back in 2008? No, you wasn't there. None of this gang stalking shit is religious or spiritual. You just trying to get YouTube famous, or you have a handler or an agent telling you to do stupid shit on video, mixing gang stalking with religion or spirituality. And you're going to realize a good chunk of these people who are fake gang stalking victims doing that, they're doing that fucking tongue thing. I don't know what that tongue thing is, but you see it all the time in Netflix movies and Amazon TV shows. They do, and you watch certain politicians, they're always sticking their fucking tongues out. People used to say that has something to do with reptilians or half alien human hybrids. I just think the CIA tells these people to stick their fucking tongues out, and they do it. Anyway, he talked about this back in the day, but I think that his channel got deleted. Anyway, so enjoy this video. He gonna bring up Christianity, and like I said before, the electromagnetic spectrum has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. It predates it, period, by trillions of motherfucking years, okay? That's what we're being hit with. It has nothing to do with Lucifer, the name, Satan, the title, okay? It has nothing to do with that. But he's gonna bring that up, and you're gonna hear it. You can believe that or you don't. I don't have a problem with that, okay? This dude have, in my opinion, he has the right to speak, because he talked about so many issues that have turned out to be true. So enjoy his video. That's all I'm saying. All right, peace. Everybody else, have a good day. I mean, have a good morning. It's past midnight. All right, peace. I love you, Andre. I'm your mom. Hopefully I can see you in Los Angeles sometime in the month of February. Your sister should be having a birthday by then. All right, peace. Everybody else, have a good night.
This is the Nation's Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Do you hear voices? Some of you may actually hear voices, because some of you may actually be targeted individuals by our government. But I want to talk about the expression of hearing voices. We hear it so often now. Anytime there's an event that happens at a school or some type of insane crime occurs, we hear the killer, the supposed person who is likely someone who usually has a tie-in to the CIA or the FBI, talk about hearing voices. And this is something that's actually new. If people actually think about the term hearing voices in your head, schizophrenia, some of these diseases that they've categorized this as, now they call people who suffer from some of these schizophrenia-like symptoms as having Havana syndrome. We've even seen that. I've covered that after some of the fires have occurred. And of course, that's because of the radiation exposure from the directed energy weapons. So some of the fires in California, the fires in Maui that they told you were because of the climate, which were in fact from radiation weapons, which are directed energy weapons, cause people to suffer from Havana syndrome. And the symptoms include delusions, hallucinations, hearing voices, and trouble focusing. So what I'm getting at here is radiation attacks, radio frequency attacks, because there's so many things that are normal in our world today, right? We hear about depression, anxiety. Do you think people couple hundred years ago even knew what the word depression was? No, because it didn't exist. Do you think people actually had depression? Even if people were sad and upset, even if they lost a loved one, they wouldn't have labeled it as depression. They would have said it's normal to feel this way if things aren't going well, but they would have just went about their lives. Of course, now everything gets diagnosed. They want you to go see a psychologist or a therapist, and they certainly want to get you on medication. So things like that have become normal. And story after story after story, usually around some type of horrific crime event, we hear a narrative of the person hearing voices telling them to do it, going back to people like the son of Sam in the 70s. And I'm talking again about radio frequency attacks, and they are more normal in today's world than ever before. We have targeted individuals that the government specifically targets and uses these types of radio frequency attacks specifically on them, as well as other methods that the government openly admits to doing, like gang stalking, which I've gone into detail about as well in separate videos. So the reason they're able to increase the amount of radio frequency attacks on individuals is, of course, because of these wonderful towers that continue to pop up around us. And they're only going to get worse as the frequencies continue to get increased, right? They're already talking about going from 5G to 6G to who knows what else, 666G, 1 trillion gigahertz. Nobody will even notice, right? Because they're already living in such a daze, and they think that all these types of behaviors are normal, that it's just part of living to have depression, have anxiety, to have panic attacks, to hear voices, that they'll never question it, right? As long as they can download a song faster on their phone, at least that's what the government tells them, and they don't even realize that the speed of the internet on their phone is not increasing at all. In fact, it couldn't be any faster than it already is, but the government tells you that so they can continue to get away with increasing the frequencies that they're using on us. We can look back here before I play some video clips so that you can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. We can look at how the US military is making lasers that create voices out of thin air. And that should begin to piece this together for you. When you hear making voices, creating voices out of thin air, that the Pentagon's non-lethal weapons lab hopes to have a direct energy weapon that could produce an effect like a haunted walkie-talkie or the biblical burning bush. And yes, that's true. And you'd say, why would the government ever do that? Well, of course the government would do it. The government would do it. So of course they could go after their own citizens, specifically ones who expose them for who they are and what they do. And it's very convenient as well for the government when they're manufacturing Manchurian candidates, and we know how trauma-based mind control works. So in other words, when they create Manchurian candidates, these Manchurian candidates can be activated by hearing a certain sound or hearing a certain voice or hearing a certain trigger. Well, with these types of radio weapons that they have, voice to skull, they could automatically trigger these Manchurian candidates to go out and commit these horrific acts because they're pre-programmed to do it. And all this stuff you see with creating voices out of thin air should always remind everybody of that Bible verse that you never hear about in the church, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2. Where in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. The prince of the power of the air being Satan. And this technology, if you look into it, you can look back with voice to skull going as far back as 1974 when they were attempting to do this with the technology they had then, which didn't include the amount of frequencies that are coming out of these 5G towers, but they were still able to use tones at very high ranges that people would hear. They would hear varying frequencies in their ear. These microwave pulses that would be getting sent to them. And the government was patenting these things as far back even as 1992, where we had patents such as silent subliminal presentation system, where they even show you a diagram of how a speech amplifier can be used to send these signals directly to a human being. We have US patent 6488617B1, the method and device for producing a desired brain state, where they literally can control the frequency that is being sent to your brain to control what wavelength you're operating at. This is a form of hypnosis, is really what it is. And it's no different because when you're put in front of the television and you actually think you're going to entertain yourself or you're going to get information, you're getting put into a state of hypnosis. It's no different than when somebody, or you see one of those video clips of somebody doing hypnotism to stop smoking, to forget about an ex-girlfriend, to overcome some type of depression in their lives. You see this, and then people go, wow, that's crazy. That actually worked? And the people are like, yeah, it actually worked. Well, hypnotism is being used on all of us every single day, and you don't have to own a television to have it done on you because just looking at media on your phone does the same exact thing at a different wavelength. So they're already controlling the brain state of the majority of individuals in today's world. There's even US patent 5356368. The method of an apparatus for inducing desired states of consciousness. And I'm showing you these and telling you these things because these are weapons that are being used against us. The old motto of silent weapons for quiet wars. If you haven't noticed, our governments around the earth have already waged war on all of us using directed energy weapons, weather modification. The enemy is not coming to your front door with a tank just yet because they're using all of these weapons that they've created while everybody was busy being distracted, chasing the American dream in America, where the people in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you could work at a grocery store bagging groceries and you could be a homeowner. That was by design. People were going to their 9-to-5s. They were living in a dystopia, right? They were living in Pleasantville. And in the background, the government was carrying out the building of this military-industrial complex that they have by doing experiments on human beings, whether it was MK Ultra or doing these types of experiments on people's brains using radio frequency attacks. So since that time, they've only mastered this. And now it's even easier for the government to actually use these types of weapons on their civilians because they're able to not just send these frequencies from a satellite balloon or an antenna somewhere that you might not see. They're sending it directly from cell phones, from television sets, from those towers that surround us. Here is a bunch of clips to help you understand this type of technology better and how they're using this type of technology to send direct messages to people so that they're thinking the thoughts that they're hearing in their head are actually their own, but they're not. They're voices from an outside source. Kind of reminds you of all those things we've heard over the years of hearing voices, hearing God and hearing the devil, right? The good idea, the bad idea, the good choice, the bad choice, the devil on one shoulder, God on the other shoulder. That whole stereotype that they planted into people's heads, where people even think that some of the voices that they're hearing or some of the things that they're thinking are their own thoughts and ideas. But think again, because the government has already been working on this since the 1970s. And now, well, this is being unleashed on the public.
Voice-to-skull technology. This is also in the foray of directed energy weapons. Ability to, let's just say, throw your voice into your head or my voice into my head, or allowing algorithms that now they can blanket a whole geographical area and they can make everybody change their thoughts. The Department of Defense recently started initiating protocols for their employees, their agents, to discuss Havana syndrome-like symptoms. And on that list is that their agents are hearing voices in their head.
Pentagon scientists have finished testing on an early weapon that can make laser plasma balls talk.
Stop, or we will be forced to fire upon you.
It's called the laser-induced plasma effect, and it's made by the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate. So what they've done is basically created a laser that can shoot out to a certain distance, and they can pipe in sound waves through it, and actually make human voice sounds and commands.
Stop, or we will be forced to fire upon you.
Now where this becomes useful is around an area we want to keep a perimeter secure. So essentially you can shoot out this laser, you can then talk to the people on the edge of the perimeter rather than sending troops out there and tell them to get away, or you're going to shoot, or get away, or they're going to use other means to deter them. And that same laser can be used to actually target the individual and create heat through pinpricks, like microscopic pinpricks in their skin, even beneath clothing. It's extremely uncomfortable and people move out of the way almost immediately. At the same time, the exact same laser is also being used as kind of a never-ending flashbang grenade. It can basically, with a power source, it can constantly create audible effects to deter and confuse and disorient people, just like a flashbang grenade that you would have in your kit, but would only be able to flash once, maybe twice, depending on the design.
So we can't hear this. It's going to, I haven't turned it on yet. When I do, it's going to blast out a 65 kilohertz beam. Because the wavelength is so small, it doesn't spread. Because 65 kilohertz has a wavelength like that. It's going to be, in that sense, similar to a laser. It just comes right out as a beam. Now, how do we make that audible? Well, they put a modulation on top of the 65 kilohertz. There's a modulation. And now, here's the next thing I have to tell you. That 65 kilohertz is very high amplitude. It won't hurt you, we don't think. Okay? You certainly can't hear it, and we don't think it'll hurt you. And it's very high amplitude. And what happens when you have two sound waves like this, sound plus sound can create sound, but only at high amplitudes. At low amplitudes, sound waves just travel right through each other. You may be sort of familiar with this. But at high amplitudes, you can create sound. So what happens in this apparatus is the audio sound, the sound that you're going to hear, is actually created in the beam, not here. And because it's created in the beam and it stays in the beam, we have a beam of sound. So let me demonstrate this for you. Let me turn it on. And I'm going to find the piece of music that we like. Yeah. You may not like it. The Eagles? You like the Eagles? Yes. Okay, good. Oh, we have a friendly audience this year. Yeah. I think they're just saying that to make us feel better. Right. All right. It's worth the $2,000. It's not our money. Now, the sound that you're hearing is being created in this beam. It almost sounds like it's coming from your head. So let me try to scan the whole audience here so everybody gets to hear this. Absolutely remarkable. Pete, are you getting it? Let's try to break it. One more thing. Let's try to bounce it off the wall. Raise your hand if you can very clearly hear it. I'm going to try to bounce it off the wall. Look at where the hands are raised.
So it's scary to think that we're at a point where this isn't only mastered. We're seeing more and more technology presented to us, brought into our homes, where we don't even know the type of frequencies that are coming out of a lot of the electronics that we own. Now, people like me and you might, because we have EMF readers and we see how much microwave, we see if we have a microwave surrounding us or not, literally. I mean, you could hold these readers up to some of the most bizarre devices and you get a reading off of it. In fact, it might surprise people, right? We talked, how many times on my channel over the years, for those of you that don't know, we talked about smart meters, right? And people are like, oh, a smart meter, what's the big deal? What's going on in my home? They don't even realize the type of EMF frequencies coming off that is the same as putting your head inside of a microwave. I mean, some of the frequencies around us are utterly insane, and we're bringing this stuff into our home. But think about the type of weaponry that we've allowed our government to have. Hearing even that military channel on YouTube, the Military Times, talking about this as if it's a good thing, right? How it's a good thing, how they could make voices out of lasers in thin air. And of course, they want you to think this is all good, right? That's the big catch. This type of technology is good because this is for our enemy over in Russia or in Al-Qaeda, or Al-Qaeda, I should say, or in a cave, the boogeyman hiding out somewhere that they tell you should be fearful of. Well, your own government's developing these types of weapons to use on the human race. So I wanted to do a video just talking about targeted individuals and radio frequency attacks because they are worse than ever. I hear people constantly talking about it, messaging me about being under attack, and that's why it's so important to stay prayed up. Because unless you're able to live in a Faraday cage, which last I checked, most people don't. I mean, if you could build a home out of, if you could build a Faraday cage home and you could keep all these types of frequencies away from you, well, then maybe you wouldn't have to deal with this type of technology affecting your life, affecting your mood, affecting how you're feeling every day, waking up day to day feeling different. One day you feel great, the next day you feel awful. You can't figure out why, right? You feel hungover, you didn't have anything to drink. You feel hungover, you ate the same stuff you always eat. Why do you feel so bad? Why do you have these thoughts? Why are you feeling anxious? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how they operate with radio frequency attacks. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you found this video useful. Share it with others. Get the word out for anyone out there that doesn't know. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.